Thank you so much for joining us this lovely Sunday morning. Well, the taxi alternative Uber can now be found in over 250 cities around the world and is valued at $40 billion. That's right, with a B. But the popular ride-sharing company is not without problems. Recently, Uber's head of global safety promised to build new safety programs on the heels of publicized sex attacks allegedly committed by Uber drivers. Another issue that's been hitting the company has to do with insurance. Houston Uber drivers are only required to have liability coverage. Uber says riders involved in an accident are covered up to $1 million, and according to Uber, that's almost 20 times the requirement of Houston taxis. So there are a lot of issues facing Uber right now, obviously. That is our topic this half hour, and we wanted to hear from you on Facebook and Twitter. Joining us live in the newsroom, though, is Fox 26 legal analyst Chris Tritico with our Roundup panel. How's it going, Chris?
It's great. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, there's two problems here as we're talking about this issue about the sex attacks. And actually, Uber was recently banned in 2 countries. I think one of them was Spain, over these very issues. But a growing company like this probably needs to keep updating their policies to ensure that they're doing the right background checks and take care of the people who are using this service, or they'll go away pretty quick. And on the insurance front, you know, in the state of Texas, every driver is required to have a minimum of $25,000 worth of liability insurance. But here's the catch, and here's the catch for Uber. A private owner like me in my car, I have my $25,000 policy. If that's what I choose to have, that doesn't cover me for business activities. And so if they're just relying on those personal liability policies, it won't pay if you have a wreck. And Uber's going to be ultimately responsible at the end of the day for that. And that's why they should be requiring their drivers to have a commercial taxi policy to cover issues as they come up. Let me introduce our panel. Mustafa Tamiz, our political analyst, Jackie Bally, our public policy analyst. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start with you. You know, Uber was banned in Spain and one other country over these sex attacks that are occurring. As a new company, they probably hadn't thought through those policies enough to do the background checks to ensure that this didn't happen.
Sure. Uber's a great concept, and you're going to see as they evolve, they're going to have to look at their policies and update their policies. And one of the things that they're doing, I looked up their policies, how they do a background check up to 7 years. But sometimes things could have happened past that time frame. Maybe they should extend that. They do look at state, federal, and local background checks. They do credit checks. So they do have some kind of policy in place. Maybe they should extend that for a longer period. They do make sure that they look up if any of their drivers or proposed drivers have any kind of sexual abuse in their past. So there is something in place that they're trying to avoid these kind of incidents.
But a background check's not going to catch somebody that hadn't done it.
They need to extend this a little bit more than what they currently have.
Right, but a background check's not going to catch someone who hadn't done anything yet.
Well, my point is they do have a policy in place, and once these incidents continue to happen, they're going to have to evolve and make it more extensive.
You know, on the insurance thing, if you're requiring your drivers to have a minimum $25,000 personal liability policy, they're engaged in a business activity. The insurance company's going to say, too bad.
And I'm not surprised that hasn't happened yet. You're going to see more of this evolvement, as Jackie was saying. This is a new industry. It's not just a new company, it's a new industry. And as it evolves, whether it's Uber or Lyft or many others that are to come, they're going to have to create a new paradigm in which they do business and protect the consumer. Otherwise, they're not going to be around very long. So it's an interesting thing to watch. But I remember when this was on City Council in Houston, it was the full Lobbyist Employment Act.
Oh, yeah.
Every lobbyist by either the Yellow Cab or Uber or Lyft. And this was a big fight. But it has been a big fight around the world. Every city where they've tried to, you know, incorporate the Uber concept, you've seen this because it is disrupting the industry. And Uber, if they don't get their act together, if they don't get their communications together fairly soon, that there are other companies that will enter the marketplace.
Let me go to Hillary. She's in the studio.
Yeah, that's right. We're monitoring social media, too. A lot of people wondering what are even the benefits of taking an Uber taxi versus just the other companies that are more secure. At least we know more about them at this point.
Well, you know, I'm not sure that other companies are more secure, and we're going to talk about that coming up. But the benefit, I think, is it's cheaper. I mean, isn't that really the issue?
Well, I use Uber. I used it Thursday night to get to your party. and women like me who have a very hectic schedule, and we don't want to drive in traffic, one of the greatest things, you just pull up your phone, and within 5 minutes, you get a description of the cab, you find out their ratings, you find out a lot about your your driver, and they're there within 5 minutes, probably sometimes less, sometimes 1 or 3. They're supposed to be cheaper in their rates. Now, the one thing I did discover when I tried to get from my house in Sugar Land to the airport, they charge you based on the number of miles, and he took a very strange route. He went all the way down.
So you got to know your route.
Exactly, and I called him on it. And when I called Uber, I said, "Look, this guy intentionally took a long route," and they, of course, reimbursed me.
Now, knowing these stories that we're hearing about the sexual attacks, does that make you nervous as a single woman?
Of course. I mean, it actually, to be honest with you, it made me nervous the other night whenever I was getting, it was me and my 2 girlfriends, we were getting in his cab, and I was thinking, you know, what if this guy didn't have an extensive background check? He could just take us anywhere. But having 3 versus when I'm going by myself, it made me feel safer.
And have you used Uber?
I've used Uber in different parts of the country, and that's one of the great things about it, that when you travel, if you travel a lot, it's a great way to, you know, to have it right on your phone. And a lot of things now are based on our phone. If you can take an app and you can arrive somewhere and pull it out, and you have the same experience as you do in your hometown.
And you're seeing cab companies do that too now.
All right, everybody's doing that.
We're going to leave it right there. You know, Hillary, on the liability part, Yellow Cab and other companies like that have played games for years in incorporating various different companies so that you can't sue them to get to them. Uber is looking at the same issues right now.